Shakyamuni Buddha said that everything, all phenomena is circumstantial, and the circumstance depends on motivation. So, first of all, I can't stress enough that we have to tune our motivation. To begin with, me as the expounder of this teaching, I must tune my own motivation. As someone who is uttering these words and as someone who is giving you the information, my motivation as a teacher or as a medium expressing these teachings should be solely, if possible, based on the bodhicitta. At least it must come from a good heart of benefiting others. As a teacher, I shouldn't be expounding these teachings in order to generate disciples, fame, material possessions. I should not be giving you these teachings even for the sake of impressing you for a moment. And this is what I must remind myself again and again during these few days as I give you the teachings of departing from the four desire. If there's any sign of me going astray, you can kindly give me some indication. As a listener to this teaching, motivation also is very important. Depending on what kind of motivation you have, you will also receive or interpret the teachings accordingly. If you are here to listen to the teaching to increase your knowledge, for instance, if you are trying to finish a thesis on Mahayana studies or doing a PhD on attachments or parting from the attachments, then that's one type of motivation. Therefore, you will also hear accordingly. If you are here because you think that probably some of these Mahayana teachings might act as a therapeutic help, then of course you will also hear accordingly, according to that kind of desire. This is quite essential, even though whenever we talk about tuning the motivation, we kind of assume ourselves that we do have the right motivation or intention. This is something that you might like to pay some attention, because it is the motivation or intention that also generates different kinds of expectation. For instance, if you are going through some kind of a trauma in your life, let's say you are suffering insomnia, and because of that you are wanting some kind of a escape. You want to numb your emotions. And then you come here to receive these teachings. Probably it's not going to help your insomnia. Probably it might not even help your depression. And then this might disappoint you. And then all your effort that you have dedicated for coming here may be a waste, and you may be utterly disappointed. But at the same time, if you have a motivation of really wishing to understand the infinite, vast and infinite Mahayana path, and gradually, at least begin practicing this Mahayana path and then apply it, then that's another case. To put it into a nutshell, I'm telling you these things because probably it's my own imagination, but I have a small reason here. Buddhism recently has gained some good ratings in the media. Buddhism is always associated with non-violence. Buddhism is kind of associated with happiness. If you have a title, happiness, on your book, and something to do with Buddhism, is almost guaranteed to be a bestseller. So, Buddhism, non-violence, happiness are kind of becoming a synonymous. While this is, of course, as a Buddhist, this is kind of good thing. It feels good when you are associated with something good, especially in this kind of time where religious fanaticism is so strong. At the moment, we Buddhists are kind of going through the honeymoon period of enjoying this reputation. But this worries me, Because Buddhism is not to, the purpose of Buddhism is not to make you happy. And this is very important for us to understand. The ultimate purpose of Buddhism is to go beyond happiness, to achieve enlightenment. That's the most important. Because happiness is very relative. Watching World Wrestling Federation 24 hours can be a happiness for some people. So practicing Buddhism purely for happiness, therefore, is not really the ultimate aim. And this point is very much made by Manjushri or Sachin Punganingbo or Jitun Thakur Jensen in this text, which will be discussing. So this is why I'm stressing this. It's kind of disheartening to see Buddhism or anything to do with Buddhism in the section of self-help and relaxation, aromatherapy, and this is, for me, it's a little difficult to say because blatantly you can't go against anything to do with peace and loving and smiling and all of that, because it's politically incorrect to go against. For health, we enroll ourselves into health clubs. For health and vanity reasons, I guess. We enroll ourselves to health clubs. We push iron, pull iron, I don't know, run it. For mental health, ultimately for the mental health, if you come to just for a healthy mind, of course depending on motivation, for a healthy mind, strong mind, controlled mind, so that you will be a good manager, so that you will be a good leader. You see all these kind of books these days. Buddhism management, Buddhism. For this kind of purpose, with this kind of purpose, if you come to Buddhism, I cannot say you will be disappointed entirely. I'm sure it will give you, to a certain extent, some answer. But ultimately, Buddhism is not designed for that. Ultimately, Buddhism is not designed to be a successful manager. In fact, ultimately, Buddhism is to really ruin your career of management. If management and leadership is so important, Siddhartha would have never left Kapilavastu, because he had the greatest opportunity to manage the whole country. So, I'm telling you these things because we have to have a certain we have to really, it's easy to say, we have the right motivation, but we should really contemplate on this. Are we here to listen to these teachings for the enlightenment? We all like to say yes, or anyway, it's safer to say this way anyway, among the Buddhists. But even that statement, that I'm here to learn the path of enlightenment, I'm here to listen to the teachings so that I will achieve enlightenment. Even the fact that do you really want to achieve enlightenment, that is something that you should contemplate. I must confess, I for one, I'm not all the time attracted to enlightenment. Really. I'm much more attracted to the samsaric success, the gain, the influence, the game that we play. I'm very much for this. Enlightenment as a romantic notion, the golden color, the light, the omniscience, all of that is fine. And especially when I'm tormented suddenly with certain problems, then of course I think about enlightenment. When I'm up in the air and when my plane go through turbulence, then I think about enlightenment. As soon as I'm on the ground and surrounded by friends, families, attention, gain, don't think about enlightenment. And not only that, sometimes I contemplate and if you really contemplate, enlightenment is a state where you have amazing qualities, supposedly amazing qualities. And from the emotional point of view, all these amazing qualities that enlightenment is supposed to have, such as omniscience, you should really think, do you really want to be omniscient? Because if you do have omniscience, there will be no surprise. You cannot read one good detective novel. You already know the end. You can't enjoy anything. You can't enjoy a new food, you can't taste a new drink because you already know. You can't gossip around, you can't chat around because you already know the answer. So, from the emotional point of view, enlightenment is, from our deluded emotional point of view, enlightenment is really, utterly such a boring place where you have no excitement at all. Why do we need this? So this way, it's quite important to really tune our motivation. So I shall remind you about the motivation every now and then, hopefully every time we begin the teaching. I mean to myself mainly, and then to you also. I studied under the amazing guidance of Khenpa Rinpoche, almost 5 years. I mainly studied Buddhist philosophy. When Khenpa Rinpoche asked me if I consider giving these teachings here, not only, of course, as a student, we are obliged to fulfill the teacher's wishes, even though as some of my colleagues here would know, when I was studying in Sakya College, where Khenpa Rinpoche was teaching, I was really, even the title worst student is kind of a compliment. Mostly I was reading Tintin comic. Anyway, for a very strange reason, Nepal, especially Badrinath, is the first ever place where I taught to Western audience when I was 17. I had 3 Westerners. I don't know why they even listened to me. Because I hardly spoke English, but I didn't know anything. So it is there's so much connection to this land. So many of my teachers came here. They have their seat here. Presently, of course, Khenpa Rinpoche. Of course, when Jamjit Guchen Rinpoche was here, his seat is is very near here. And also, presently, Tengar Rinpoche is also here. So I've also received many teachings from him. And then Shadyu Tushik Rinpoche. Also the fact that this is such a holy place, a very sacred place, and I must say, with all this chaos of sewage system not working and power cut and shortage of water and all of that, Nepal, and especially Bauda, or this area, the Kathmandu basically, I think they generally Nepal, especially surrounding here, there is something inexpressible. There is a certain blessing in this part of the world. The moment you are here, you feel that you have to behave. So the place enforces you a bit of mindfulness. Anyway, I like to say that I consider this as an opportunity for myself to to accumulate some merit to, first of all, offer some service to my teacher, Kemba Rinpoche. And also, I've been fortunate to be one of the students of the Sakya lineage. And this is opportunity for myself to share with some of you, those who may have not yet built a connection with the Sakya lineage. For those who are completely new, what a wonderful way to begin your exploration to this infinite Mayan path with the teachings of primarily Manjushri himself. This, as you must have read, since everything is available these days. Actually, I don't know whether I should be even telling you these things. You can just Google it. When Sajin Kyunga Nyingpo was 12 years old, this was taught by Manjushri. So this is for those who are devoted or crudely speaking, those who are Manjushri fan, one can say that Shambhashira is a very special teaching because it came from Manjushri. It has been preserved, maintained, and really upheld by the lineage of the Manjushris. Sometimes referred as Jamyang Sacha, meaning the Manjushri Sakyapas. In case some of you, those who are very new, some of you who has no knowledge of Manjushri, relatively speaking, Manjushri appears at time as one of the Buddha's chief disciples among the lay disciples, But from the Mahayana Sutras, Manjushri is also as the, I don't know how to put this very simply, but Manjushri appears almost as the narrator of all the Buddha activities. The narration not necessarily verbally, but physically and in the form of manifestation. For instance, it is believed that Shuddhodana, or Shakyamuni Buddha's father, the physical father, Shuddhodana, is considered in the Mahayana Sutras as a Manjushri in person. And also, if some of you are familiar with Buddha's 12 deeds, Buddha's life story, there's the deeds of Buddha first observing the death, the old age and sickness, which in sort of triggered so to speak, which triggered Buddha's renunciation mind. And then also seeing bhikshu who really inspired the Buddha to become the wanderer. In some sutras, in fact, it's believed that all the manifestations of death, the old age and sickness and the monk are created by Manjushri as the reminder to the young bodhisattva. Manjushri seems to be quite busy because Manjushri is not only doing this to the Shakyamuni Buddha, but it is believed that Manjushri will be doing the same thing with all the 996 coming Buddhas, reminding them, teaching them, giving them signals, but then again also acting like a disciple. And his teachings, the way he taught, are also not ordinary. Many times, I'm sure some of you know that in the sutras there's an account of how at one point when Shariputra or Kashyapa, in the presence of the Shakyamuni Buddha, asked Manjushri, what is emptiness? What is shunyata? Manjushri kept quiet for some time. And then Buddha applauds and said that was the right answer. So, and there's also another occasion. You know, in some of the Mahayana sutras, there's this restrictions that you are not supposed to teach the shunyata to ordinary people, ordinary who are not matured. Because shunyata, the message of shunyata is too vast and too, if you are not prepared, it can mislead you. But there's a sutra that talks about how Manjushri actually deliberately, loudly, extremely talked about emptiness and shunyata and all of that. In fact, about 500 odd people got really shocked, and not only that they actually, sort of discard the Mahayana path and born in the lower realm. And another bodhisattva asked Manjushri, this is like mindless thing to do. You know, how can you, a bodhisattva, of all the people, especially you, Manjushri, how can you do such things? Here, there, Buddha Shakyamuni intervened and said, actually, Manjushri did an amazing thing, because Manjushri knew that even though these people will suffer for the time being, eventually Manjushri has already planted the seed of understanding the shunyata. Therefore, it was necessary. So, as you can see from these accounts, Manjushri has a very unique way of teaching. Many sutras talks about Manjushri. I think it was Maitreya, the future Buddha. He said that if about 10 Maitreya said, if 10 million bodhisattvas who are equal standings of Maitreya looked at Manjushri, even the 10 million bodhisattvas who are equal standing of Maitreya, they will not comprehend how Manjushri even plays his steps when he walks. So there's this kind of very flowery, at times symbolic kind of account. But there's something that you might want to know. These are not just like a legend or some kind of a mythical stories. Actually, quite a profound symbolic teachings. Because what is the most important in the Buddha's path? What's the most important? The most important is the wisdom. Without the wisdom, as the Chandradeva said, all the other path is like blind path. It is because of the wisdom, all the other path also becomes valid, such as generosity, discipline, diligence. All of this becomes a valid path because of the wisdom, or if you have the wisdom. So obviously wisdom is considered the essential. And Manjushri actually represents or symbolizes, or if you like, is the embodiment of all the wisdom of the Buddhas, all the Buddhas. So it's because of this reason the symbolic Manjushri is very much venerated by Panditas, scholars, saints of the past, present, and I'm sure in the future. Even in Tibet, there's a rush of Turkus who all claim that they are incarnation of Manjushri. Everybody likes to claim quite a lot. No, yeah. Even more than, I don't think I have heard any Tibetan lamas who claims they are Shakyamuni's incarnation. But Manjushri's incarnation, they love it. This resume or this CV. The Turkus likes to have this CV of being a Manjushri's incarnation or something to do with the Manjushris. Among, many other bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara. So, this teaching directly came from Manjushri himself. Now, some of you, and you should, rightfully so, you can be skeptical of such a about 12 years old, 6 months, somewhere sitting there, and he saw Manjushri and he taught this. Maybe it's like a Alice in the Wonderland or some kind of Little Miss Red Riding Hood, is it? Yeah. Or something like that. Fairy tales. Yeah, of course, you should be skeptical. That's one freedom that Buddha allowed. Really important freedom. You had to cast it, you had to analyze it. But the account of Sachin Kungan Nyingpo's vision of Manjushri when he was 12 actually says a lot about Mahayana teachings. Mahayana teach us, among many other things, Mahayana also teach us that, well, first of all, not only Mahayana, on the Sharvakayana level, in Buddha Dharma, the Buddha is not outside. The ultimate Buddha is within yourself. Therefore, we have concepts such as Tathagata Garbha. And this is quite an important because someone like Sachin Gunga, who has one-pointed, first of all, who has one-pointed trust and acceptance that there is this Buddha nature, and then one-pointed trust and devotion towards the Manjushri. This merit can, due to this trust and this merit, the projection is such that Manjushri actually came in his vision or his dream and taught this. Now, if the teaching that was taught by the Manjushri does not make a logical sense, if it doesn't have a complete teachings, if it only deals partially with some partial problems, if it doesn't have a gradual path which can lead you all the way to the enlightenment, then you can say this is just an incomplete, vague dream of a 12 years Tibetan boy. When he was probably kind of forced into 6 months retreat. But as you know, and this is one example that I always give to people, because of our innate Buddha nature, Buddha quality or the Buddha nature, many times when it's accompanied by merit, even a small incident or small slice of life can actually spark inspiration, compassion, love, bodhicitta. This can happen to many people. Sight of a horrendous, killing and mass murdering. For some people, some of us, if when you look at it, if at that point, if you are accompanied with some kind of a merit, that sight can really spark renunciation mind, love and compassion towards the ignorance of the sentient being, and it can, you can take off from there. In this case, ugly it may be, that horrendous picture of somebody mutilated somewhere in Gaza or Iraq, Baghdad, actually has done what Bodhisattva's manifestation does. It sparked, it triggered that. It was the leader, that thought became the leader that which leads all the enlightened thought. Using that as an example, it's very, very acceptable that Sachin Gunga, someone who is totally devoted to the Manjushri, in his dream or his vision, Manjushri came to him and taught this.